Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I think Snap-on is so screwed, at least with their soft grip ratcheting interchangeable shank screwdriver system. Why? Well, because Klein just came out with their ratcheting ball head, and you think, well, I don't get it. What's going on here? Well, generally we think of ball heads like this. Even if we went to their kind of pop-off Stubby, that's super stubby ratcheting, but then it's got this longer front end. Well, something interesting just happened. Now, I've been a big fan of ratcheting screwdrivers, especially the stubby size, and in fact I think that, and I've said a video title with this, that the only good stubby screwdriver is a ratcheting stubby screwdriver. I'm also probably the most vocal person on YouTube about which direction this turns. I really think you should turn it in the direction that you want to tighten. It's usually the opposite. Lots of screwdrivers do the opposite, and there are reasons for both, but that just was one of the things I really liked about the Snap-on. But the Snap-on uses this 1/4-inch interchangeable shank system, and the shanks, even the small ones like this, are, you know, 20 bucks or more, and then they go on up $20, $30, $40, up to $60 if you want the composite one here. And, you know, it's great that they're answering the call for all kinds of different needs, but it really does limit things because there's no way you can really use this thing without popping in one of the Snap-on shanks. And then they don't have a locking end, they have the magnetic end. Now, most of the time, that's great. And I've also been a big fan of putting a longer shank on a stubby screwdriver. Now, here's what happened. Klein released this. Looks great. People are doing all kinds of reviews. In fact, if you want in-depth reviews specifically about this, head over to either Project Pine Hills or Morgan's Maintenance, or better yet, both, and you can see what they did with it. But what I think happened, you know, I'm always out in the woods here by myself thinking, what's going on here? Well, here's what's up. This is kind of crazy. What we have, well, in sockets, we have shallow and we have deep, okay? But there is this mid-length, which is called a semi-deep, or what I've been kind of nicknaming a semi-shallow. It's turned out to be a super handy size. If this was, you know, overkill and this wasn't quite enough, well, look at this. Is this a stubby screwdriver? Here is the PB Swiss stubby screwdriver. And here is, let me put that other bit on, this Snap-on here. Oh wait, I brought an extra one out just for this. Look at that. What's going on there? The Snap-ons, these are known as stubby ratcheting screwdrivers. People complain this one's too long for a super stubby. Here's Milwaukee's entry, kind of a little bit large, but you can see that if you throw a bit on that, you know, how far off? That one's a little bit, it's more of a stubby. This is kind of in the middle. Let's compare it to some bigger ones. Here's the Vera. This is the classic 816. And you can see before I even have a bit, this is already shorter. Here's the Snap-on Vera version. It's even longer. And then, of course, if you go into the rest of the Snap-on soft grip system, you can see there's a huge difference here. This is as short as you can get this, and maybe there is a new bit. I'm still trying to get it from Snap-on that might cut half an inch, maybe an inch off that. But you can see what they have done is they've opened up this new space, which is that semi-deep space, or the semi-stubby, or the, well, what's a standard one called? So a lot of people are comparing this end. I'm going to compare this end, and there is so much to it once you do that. Of course, Snap-on has a ton of different types of bits for theirs. Short ones, long ones, dedicated screwdrivers. These are all expensive. Quarter, you know, actually the quarter, so you can actually run a socket on, you know, your screwdriver handle. Well, Klein has got tons of these as well, including these locking extra long extensions. Super nice, but if you don't like those, well, you could go to your DeWalt. If you want that really slim profile DeWalt or Milwaukee or whatever you want, everything goes in here. It just completely wipes away a lot of the advantage that the Snap-on has. And if you notice this, here is the collar, because there's more to it on the operation of this. So the collar, if I turn it to this direction, it tightens to that direction. Turn it the other direction, and now it spins it that way, exactly as I want. But here's something else. For the longest time, I've just been dealing with this as if it was some great thing, knurling, you know, and I can move up because my hand was big enough that I could do some faster spinning up here. And it's because that's my only choice. But check this out. If I throw a bit in this, and I can throw all kinds of different bits. In fact, all sorts, and these work great. In fact, Klein makes a ton of sizes like that, but that's near perfect. But now, look at that. They've moved the ratcheting end to the back end, so that's where I can rotate it. If you take a PB Swiss or something, well, the control is up here. It's beyond that, so I'd have to reach all the way up here. This is a totally natural environment, which then made me think, look at that. Okay, I need to find a better adapter. Klein, you could get on that if you wanted, but this is a 4mm bit, and I just dropped my adapter down in there. If I release this, it's just not held tight. There's a little bit of play right here, just like that, but that is pretty cool right there. If I want to work on something, look at that, 4mm, excellent. There are tons of bits of this size from all kinds of different manufacturers. And then, of course, Klein is right there to help us with their sets. Here's Klein's hexes. Here's Klein's drill bits. Here's Klein's longer shaft bits. I mean, they're right there. Klein must have known something was going on. And then you can open it up to all of these kinds of things. So what do I have here? Well, a bottle opener maybe. Any of these kinds of adapters. You know, this one holds the screw in place as you're drilling it in. Long bits like this, just turn it into an excellent size, and then maybe a little shorter. This is actually one of my favorites, that size, and it's locked in there nice and tight. What else? Any of the adapters, nut drivers. I mean, the snap-on system was probably a great idea back then, but there's always this thing in the way. I can't just stick anything I want into here. And of course, Klein has got their adapters for all the sockets, swivels, things like that, and their glorious bit here. Pop this one out, which is probably the ideal Phillips 2. In there, rock solid. Look at that. That is, we need a new name. What's a good name for it? We've got in the sockets, you've got the shallow, you've got the deep, and you've got the semi-deep. Was this a semi-stubby? Or does it need its own name? And what happens is the way this fits, as I've described in my other videos, just so perfectly in the hand. This is incredible. That right there is going to make me forget about this. Maybe. I mean, I still like these, but there are some wonkiness things to it, and the price is crazy. Look at that. Very simple design, totally natural, super fast. I mean, this is incredible. Right there, the semi-stubby Klein. That is going to, I think, send shockwaves through a lot of other manufacturers, and you're going to start to see this all over the place, but here's the original as far as I can tell. Great lockup, so versatile, handles anything from, you know, foot-long extensions. If you drop a regular sized bit in there, you know, it disappears. You need to pull that out. It's pretty easy to do. But there's so much going on that I think this is now a new platform for all kinds of new bits. I'm excited, and it is so natural to use. I mean, it just fits in your hand. Just try it. Get one and just drop it in your hand and use it. You know, we've been arguing about round shafts, you know, indented shafts, tri-lobe shafts, you know, obvious instinct tri-lobe shafts, all kinds of different things. And what did we end up with? You know, just something like that. Fits in any direction just beautifully, and that right there, that's that golden ratio that just is so natural. And now you can stick so much in there that any of these other systems, Well, they have this middleman in the way, you know, that's holding you back, and because of the cost of these things, it may be prohibitive for you to even get them, so you're stuck. But this thing eats about anything, and that right there just may be the most perfect Phillips #2 screwdriver. But then any of these other bits just lock in there and fit just fine. So it's a platform for more discovery. It's a rock solid, perfectly sized, mid-engine. I don't know. We need a name. But that is not just a regular screwdriver. There's something else going on there. And Klein really found it with this thing. I'm impressed. And that's comparing it to a screwdriver that I have done dozens of videos on. Claimed this was my absolute favorite. Oof, not anymore. I mean, I still love it. It's great. But this whole bit shaft thing, I just didn't realize how much that was holding me back. I wanted it just for the handle. But look at that. In fact, you stick a little shaft in there. Grab one of these. Where's one here? You know, look at that. Right there. And what do I have? I've got this glorious little rubber overmold. It turns in the right direction. I don't have to reach all the way around this harsh edge and grab the knurling. And I can put anything I want in here versus whatever fits into this system. Let me know your thoughts. But wow, Klein, thank you. And with that, Doc out.